Kaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone to the Nectar of Instruction class for the Bhakti Sastri. And of course, this class is for the Bharin devotees who are taking the Bhakti Sastri, and this is the final unit of the Bhakti Sastri. So yes, I think you'll all be very happy to complete the Bhakti Sastri. Are you managing to keep up everything okay? I hope so.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
You managed to do all the essays and memorize all the verses? A lot of work.
Trying, Maharaj.
So there are four verses for memorization here in this unit. The first four verses, they're quite well-known verses, and I don't think they're very difficult. All right, so we're going to begin. We'll begin with the preface. Oh, does everybody have the text on their screen?
Yes, Maharaj, we can see Maharaj here.
Okay. The Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or Bengali Vaishnavas, are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hai Beakuti Kabe Hama Bujahabase Yugala Priti. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the signs of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. All right, so Prabhupada makes some important points here in the beginning of the preface. He explains that this movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. Right, this book, Upadeshamrita, was written by Srila Rupa Goswami, and it was based on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, there's a description in the diary. One of Lord Chaitanya had a servant named Govinda, and he was residing during their time in Jagannath Puri. So Govinda had a diary and he kept note, and he describes how one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling great separation from Krishna, looking at the sea. You know, the sea at Jagannath Puri is a very dark blue color, the same color as the Yamuna. And also there are some hills there at Jagannath Puri, which remind Lord Chaitanya of Govardhan. And there are beautiful gardens also there, which are similar to the gardens which are found around Govardhan Hill. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while he was staying in Jagannath Puri, he was feeling, you know, this place is actually Vrindavan, not different from Vrindavan. So he was feeling the separation from Lord Krishna. Naturally, he was thinking, where is Krishna? Because if this is Vrindavan, then Krishna's here, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was residing in Jagannath Puri, he was in this mood. As Prabhupada explains here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and she is the best of the gopis. So Lord Chaitanya had some intimate associates, and among them there were people like Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they were given these names, Rupa and Sanatan, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they are considered direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya. Rupa is the younger brother of Sanatan, but Rupa Goswami generally is considered the leader of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. The 6 Goswamis who had come there under the orders of Lord Chaitanya to reside in Vrindavan and to excavate the places of Lord Krishna's pastimes and to establish temples there and to also write books about the path of devotional service. So based on the books which Rupa Goswami wrote, he is considered to be the head of the Goswamis, the leader. And so Prabhupada explains this Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami was empowered Vaishnavas follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Goswamis, they follow Lord Chaitanya. Now there are some Vaishnavas who are not following Lord Chaitanya, and there are some people who follow Lord Chaitanya, but they don't all follow Rupa Goswami. But we follow Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami's position is very important. It is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, just like Krishna impregnated the heart of Brahma with the Vedic knowledge. Maybe you know that verse, Tenhe Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye. In the same way, Lord Chaitanya impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami to write the Bhakti Shastras, particularly like this Upadesh Amrita and then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, both of which are very important books describing the process of Bhakti Yoga. So Rupa Goswami's books had never been put in the English language before. it was Srila Prabhupada who introduced Rupa Goswami to the Western world. Of course, most people in the Western world had never heard of Krishna. And those who had heard of Krishna had never heard of Lord Chaitanya. And those who had heard of Lord Chaitanya had never heard of Rupa Goswami. So Prabhupada introduced the Western world to not only Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, but also Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, as Prabhupada said, the mission is conducted under Rupa Goswami, meaning his teachings are very important for all the Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada quotes this song by Narottam Das, that if we want to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, we have to go through the books of the Goswamis, particularly Rupa and Raghunath. When we understand their teachings, then we will be able to understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Right? Do you all want to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna?
Yes,
Yes,
Maharaj.
Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. So we have to go through Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's position is very important because he got the direct teachings from Lord Chaitanya about how to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. We have to follow in the footsteps. All right. So we'll go ahead. Somebody will ask one of the devotees, you can read.
Ramdat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I continue.
Yes, please.
Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Updesamrut, the nectar of instruction to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Siksha Ashtakam, Rupa Goswami gave us Updesamrut so that we may become pure Vaishnavas.
All right, so that's the idea. We want to become pure Vaishnavas. So the Lord Chaitanya, he gave us Shikshastikam, and Rupa Goswami gave us this Upadesh Amrita. So it's very, very important books we're studying here. So fortunate. And the purpose of our studying them, that we can become pure Vaishnavas. Go ahead, someone.
I continue.
Yes, please.
In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to platform of goodness, Sattva Guna, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Hare Krishna.
All right, so we can see Prabhupada is mentioning in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty to control the mind and senses. This is not only for bhakti yoga, all other yoga systems, whatever spiritual line they're coming in, they have to control the mind and senses. And Prabhupada tells us why, right? Why? Why do we have to control the mind and senses? What happens if we don't control the mind and senses?
Otherwise, we cannot advance in spiritual life.
Why not?
Because if we don't control that, then our senses and mind will bewilder us, and we'll be drifting away from spiritual things to material things, and get entangled with the Maya.
Yes.
Then mode of passion and ignorance overpower that, and we cannot stay in a mode of goodness.
Right, that's right. That's the point, right? We go into the mode of Rajagun and Tamagun, and then that's where the problems come. And as soon as we leave the mode of goodness, then we get all these problems. So we have to be very careful. Try to always control the mind and senses. All right, thank you. We'll ask somebody else to please read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswami. In Vrindavana, there is a little by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrit, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books such as Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Vidaga Madhava, and Lalita Madhava. But Upadeshamrit constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. Aise Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
So, Prabhu, what is, how do we make, what's the key to advancement in Krishna consciousness?
But we have to we have to become the follower of Srila Rupa Goswami, and we have to be perfect Goswami. That is what.
What does Goswami mean?
Goswami is one who controls who is the master, means who can go means he has senses, and Swami means master. So one who is mastered in controlling the senses is a Goswami.
All right. So just like we had the first duty to control the mind and senses.
Yes.
So does it mean you have to become a Goswami? Does it mean you have to leave your job and leave your family?
No, we have to control our mind and whatever we do, we have to be in the Shuddha Sattva Gun. That's what it is controlling the mind and always try to be in the Krishna consciousness mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Krishna conscious mode. So Prabhupada mentions everything depends on the attitude of the follower, right?
Yes.
We have to have the right attitude. So our attitude should be what? Our attitude should be to surrender to Krishna, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
We want to surrender to Krishna. We want to use the senses and the mind in the service of Krishna. We want to please Krishna. We want to give pleasure to Krishna. We don't just want to please our own mind and senses. We want to please Krishna. Put Krishna in the center. Right? So the attitude, that must have the right attitude, devotional service. Devotional service, there must be the mood of devotion to give service to Krishna. That we're doing it out of love. Because we want to feel more love and affection for Krishna. So the attitude, very important. Kamsa's attitude, Kamsa was thinking of Krishna, but he was thinking to kill Krishna. So his attitude was negative. But the devotee's attitude is positive. The devotee is thinking how to please Krishna, how to give pleasure to Krishna. All right. So Rupa Goswami's position in very important for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that he's teaching all of us by his instructions how we can become Goswamis, what it means to be a Goswami, how to control the mind and senses. And Rupa Goswami is very much connected to Srila Prabhupada. we also point out, Rupa Goswami, he is very connected to Lord Chaitanya. In his physical body, he's connected to Lord Chaitanya, but in his spiritual body, he's also connected to Krishna, right? Who is Rupa Goswami in his spiritual body? Does anybody know?
Rupa Manjari.
Rupa.
Yes, Rupa Manjari, right, Rupa Manjari. Manjari means the little girls who they're very young, and they assist in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. They're very intimate servants of Radha and Krishna. Because they're young girls, so they don't feel any envy. If they're older girls, the older girls will feel jealous that, oh, this Radha, she's always with Krishna. So it's arranged that only the young girls will come there to serve Radha and Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, he is Rupa Manjari, and he's the head of all these young Manjari girls. He leads them in the service of Srimati Radharani. And Radharani, she's serving Krishna. She's the dearmost servant of Krishna. And Rupa Goswami is serving her. So Rupa Goswami is very important to us. But nobody knew him. It was Srila Prabhupada who brought these books of Rupa Goswami. Just like this book, Upadeshamrita. When Prabhupada wrote it, when we first saw it, all the devotees, we were thinking, oh, it talks about Radha Kund. And we thought, oh, this book will not be for everybody. This book will just be for the senior devotees. So we thought it won't be for distribution. But Prabhupada said, no. When they printed the book, they only wanted to print a small number of books. They said it will just be for the devotees. But Prabhupada said, no, why you print so few? He said, this is a book for mass distribution. He said, let everyone read it, and everyone can be benefited by hearing from Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, he is the founder of the central person in the Krishna consciousness movement after Lord Chaitanya. So it's important for us to hear from him. And Lord Chaitanya is guiding all of us. And Srila Prabhupada got a lot of inspiration from Rupa Goswami, right? How did Prabhupada get connection to Rupa Goswami? Anybody know? Because Rupa Goswami, he's from 500 years ago. He's, from the times of Lord Chaitanya. So how could Prabhupada have connection to Rupa Goswami? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu?
In the Radha Damodar temple, Prabhupada used to swipe the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. This is a connection, Maharaj, every day.
Yes, right. Prabhupada's room in the Radha Damodar temple is that there's Radha Damodar temple. At the back of the Radha Damodar temple, there is the Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. So Prabhupada used to be there, and he used to stay there, and he wrote the first canto Srimad Bhagavatam there, and he got a lot of inspiration. He said, I was planning how I was going to attract all of you to come to Krishna consciousness. So he said, I got a lot of inspiration there. And it's also said that Rupa Goswami had appeared there to Prabhupada. And Rupa Goswami had told him that you go to the West. You go to the West and you write your books. Don't worry, I will be with you. You don't have to worry about anything. Everything will be arranged. I will be there right with you. So don't you worry, you go ahead. And I'm coming with you. So Rupa Goswami had, like in his spiritual body, he had encouraged Prabhupada that you should go ahead, go to the West, get there and begin Krishna consciousness movement. and I'm coming with you. So if Rupa Goswami was with him, then you don't have to worry about anything. Of course, Rupa Goswami, he is a Nitya Siddha devotee. He's a eternally perfect devotee. But that inspiration to go to the West, it came from Rupa Goswami, and it came when Prabhupada was residing there at Radha Damodar temple. Okay, so I'm just looking at the questions and the objectives, just make sure that we've covered everything. Right, let's look at the questions. Under whose supervision is the Krishna consciousness movement conducted? Who will answer? Yes, under whose supervision?
Rupa Goswami.
All right. And what is one's first duty in all spiritual affairs? Someone?
We have to understand the literature given by Goswamis and then be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna.
No, that is not the first duty in all
Controlling
the mind and senses.
Yes, controlling the mind and senses. That's the first duty, controlling the mind and senses. On what does our advancement in Krishna consciousness depend? Yes, someone answer?
Attitude.
Krishna Maharaj, our attitude.
Yes, attitude, right. All depends on having the right attitude, correct attitude. And define Goswami.
Who controls the mind and senses.
Yes, controller of the mind and senses. Okay, we'll just have a look and see if we've covered all the main points for this, for the preface. A brief overview of Sri Upadesh Amrita. All right, overview, I'll give the overview. We have 11 verses in this Upadesh Amrita, right? How many chapters were in the Bhagavad Gita?
18.
How many mantras were in Ishopanishad?
18 mantras.
Right. So we're lucky here. Upadesh Amrita is short, only 11 verses. Actually, it's something like the Manduka, there's one Upanishad also, there's 11 mantras. Manduka Upanishad, I think, 11 mantras. So, an overview of Upadesh Amrita. It's actually in your student handbook, but anyway, you can see the first few verses are giving Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, practicing according to rules and regulations, controlling the senses, like this. This goes on up to text number 4, at least text number 4 is like that. And then of course, text 4, you've got loving exchanges. You've got the loving exchanges. We'll look at those things when we come to them. And then we come to here after text 4, text number 5 speaks about recognizing different levels of devotees, or to know who to exchange, who to have the loving exchanges with. And text 6 tells about how we can associate with them, how to associate with the different levels of devotees, how should we deal with them according to their position. Then text 7 is about chanting the holy name, avoiding the anarthas, avoiding the offenses, and coming to chant the pure name. So the first 7 verses are all describing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, And then going on text number 8, we come to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti means spontaneous devotion to the Lord. So that's described in text number 8, how to practice Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. 24 hours a day. And then text 9 to 11 describe Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. So you can see in this nectar of instruction, we cover the whole range of Bhakti Yoga, from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti right up to Prema Bhakti. It's all here within this book. So very important and very powerful, very good for us. So that's a brief overview of the Upadeshamrita. And then the purpose of Sri Upadeshamrita. Would anybody like to tell me what they think the purpose of the Upadeshamrita is? Why did Rupa Goswami write this book? What's his purpose in mind? Anybody?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj,
Yes.
Maharaj, everyone to come to the level of Goswamis.
Yes, that's one thing. He wants everyone to become controlled in their mind and senses, like a Goswami. And is that all?
And to worship the Radha and Krishna.
No. Well, I don't know if he mentions about worshipping Radha and Krishna, but he wants us to become pure devotees. Yes. He wants us to develop pure love for Krishna. Right? He wants us to have the right attitude, which is that we should be in the mood of servant of Krishna. We want to love Krishna. It's very important to develop the loving mood in the service of Krishna. So Rupa Goswami has written this book to guide us how to develop our love for Krishna. The purpose. First, that we will become Goswamis, and then we will become devotees, and then we will become pure devotees, develop our love, pure love. So like that. And then the importance of Rupa Goswami in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Well, Lord Chaitanya himself did not write any books, but he empowered the Goswamis to write books, particularly Rupa Goswami. Right? Lord Chaitanya gave the Vedas to Brahma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this knowledge to Rupa Goswami, the essence of the Vedas. Is it all right? Any questions so far? Explain how the Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is the leader of the Goswamis, right? And he is guiding all of us. How to control our mind and senses, what should be the proper behavior. And discuss how study of Upadeshamrita could help to improve our attitude in Krishna consciousness. Yes, that we will learn how to properly behave, how to regulate our mind and senses, how to respect different devotees, and then how to chant the holy name, and how to go on to serve Krishna more, with more love and more intensity and devotion. So this will all be a big help to us in Krishna consciousness. All right, that's the preface. Any questions before we go on to the first verse? No questions? All right, somebody can read the Sanskrit for text number 1.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Everyone to be repeated, Maharaj. Like so.
Everyone what?
Everyone will be repeating, so I'll one line I'll do.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam.
Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam.
Jivha vegam udra upastha vegam.
Jiva vegam udara prastha vegam.
Etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira.
Etan vegan yo vishehate dira.
Sarvam api mam prithvim sashishyat.
Sarvam ekmam prithvim sashishyat.
Hare Krishna. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world.
Yes. Go. Can read the purport.
In Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.9 to 10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Sukadev Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for his stealing, but he may actually even see a thief arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less gathers experience by seeing, and one who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from the law books of Shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing and may even be punished but still continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of the jail. If punishment in jail is considered atonement, what is the benefit of such atonement? Thus Parikshit Maharaj inquired. Drashta srutabhyam yata papam janam api atmanohitam karoti bhuyo vivasah prayaschitam atho katham kvachin nivratate bhadrata kvachit charati tatpuna prayaschitam atho Partham manye kunjara shauchavata. He compared atonement to an elephant bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes out into the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. And then what is the value of its bathing? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. Of the 10 types of offenses one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, this offense is called Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhi, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before the priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities, expecting to be forgiven the next Saturday. This kind of prayaschitta or atonement is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, the most intelligent king of his time. Sukadev Goswami equally intelligent as befitting the spiritual master of Parikshit Maharaj, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real Prayaschitta atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada, beginning the purport here, is explaining to us how, because he'd mentioned the first thing is to control the mind and senses. So if our senses are not controlled, then we're going to do all kinds of things. We're going to engage in all kinds of activities. We don't know what's good and what's bad. Of course, Prabhupada explains that hearing is very important. And if a person hears carefully, he can learn by hearing. But not everybody is able to be benefited by hearing. Some people, they never hear. So they don't know. They just do all bad things, nonsense things. So doing atonement, how, we do some bad thing, then what do you do to make up for it? What kind of atonement will people do? Not everybody's a devotee. So they will try to do atonement, just Prabhupada explains, maybe they go to the church. They go to the church, in the Catholic Church especially, they have that tradition. They will go on the Saturday and they will tell the priest, oh, I did this, oh, I did that, oh, I got angry, I did this, and or I stole that. And then the priest will give some atonement to them. He'll tell them to do something. Maybe they will tell them even, sometimes in the Catholic Church, they chant. They have a thing, they have beads called a rosary. And they will chant on it, they chant a thing called Hail Mary. They'll chant the prayers to Mother Mary, who is the mother of the church. And they say she's the mother of God. And so they have to chant, and the priest will tell them to chant. And sometimes in Hindu culture, people will do atonement. They will do maybe monavrat, no speaking, or maybe they'll do a charity, they'll give a charity, they'll give a donation for something because they know they've done some bad things, so they want to make up for it, so they give some charity. So what's the problem with that kind of atonement? Who can say? What's wrong with that?
The elephant path, Maharaj, it's like elephant path. The elephant takes path into the pond and comes out and sprinkles mud again.
Right, yes. Why?
After cleaning the body, again it goes out and smears the dirt on its own body. So it's what is the use of that path? So similarly, we chant, we do whatever atonement, and again start doing the same exercise, the same things for which we had done the atonement. So it's like that.
Why? Why did they do that though?
So Maharaj, to get rid of the sins, Maharaj.
Yeah, but why did they go on and do sins again?
Because of the mind and senses, which are not under the control. It reflects on the mind of that particular person, that he has and he is again more attracted, satisfying his own senses.
Yes. What's going on in the mind? What's happening? What's happening in the mind?
Mind is to satisfy these senses.
Right. The mind has desire, right?
Yes.
The mind has got desire. He wants. The mind is not. The mind wants more. Wants more. He didn't get enough. Wants more. So like that, this is the problem. Because the desire for sin is still there. Even though the man knows he got punished, but still he thinks, I'll do it again. Even though he knows it's wrong, he will do it again. He says, oh, anyway, I can do more atonement. I can do more charity. I will do more. I'll go to Ganga and take bath. I'll go to Mayapur, take a bath in the Ganga, get rid of all my sins. So people are thinking like that. They don't stop. So the problem is, what's the problem?
Like continuously becomes we are the instead of being das of Krishna, we are das of our senses. So we continuously attend to the continuous desires of our.
Yes. The desire for sin is still there. They didn't do anything. They couldn't purify it. They couldn't take it. They couldn't get rid of the desire for sin. So what is the process to get rid of the desire for sin? What do they need to do?
Actually, like this, we have to apply this principle, this training principle which has been given. That's the whole thing. Control all the 6 types of urges.
Oh, that will be very difficult.
Hare Krishna marriage.
Yes.
Awaken the love of God, Krishna consciousness.
Yes, we have to develop Krishna consciousness, right? We just simply have to take to Krishna consciousness. We can't train everybody to control the mind and senses, but it's very easy to give them Krishna consciousness. Let them chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, and they'll forget all about sins. When they chant and dance and hear the Bhagavad Gita, study Bhagavad Gita, see the deities, then they become good. They become good people and they forget about all the bad activities. So that is the best atonement. That is the best way to get rid of the desire for sin. By doing Krishna consciousness, we'll get rid of the desire for sin. That only bhakti can do that. No other process. Only the path of devotion will take away the desire for sin. Right? Okay, we'll go ahead. Let's see. Yeah, we're on the part. Real atonement involves. Yes, who can, we'll have a Maharaji read.
Hare Krishna marriage. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this there is standard process. When one follows a regulated hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions in charity, by being avowedly truthful, by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asana. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Yes,
Hare
we
Krishna.
can see it. You know, if we ask people to do all of these things, if Prabhupada had went to America and told everybody, I want you all to do austerity, I want you all to be brahmachari, I want you all to give everything away in charity, you know, all of these things, you know, who could do it? Nobody would do it. Everybody would run away. But Prabhupada's program was simply give everybody Krishna consciousness, give them some chanting, and basically gradually introduce the 4 regulative principles. You know, give people nice prasadam so they forget all about meat eating, and they're chanting Hare Krishna, and they forget all about taking drugs and intoxication and everything. And we give people also nice philosophy so they don't gamble or anything like that. So they become very satisfied and peaceful by Krishna consciousness. So that is the value of association with the pure devotee. You get association with the devotees, people forget about all the sinful life. And they don't need to do all of the complicated things for the, like mentioned here, for the mystic yoga. All right? Is it clear?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, we'll go ahead. Another lady can read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
First, one must control his speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in a field speaks by croaking, and similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake, please come here and eat me. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. The talking of materialistic men and impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They are always speaking nonsense and thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence, the external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. The meaning of controlled speech conveyed by Srila Rupa Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maraji. So, you know, so how do the Mayavadis control the urge to speak?
By keeping maun.
Right, Maun, right. Can you do Maun?
No, Maharaj. Can be maun, but not for long.
Yeah, difficult for people to do. Some people do it, they go away in the world, go and sit in a cave, or go and sit in the forest, or they just go and sit, they lock the door and stay in the room, don't speak to anybody. But that's not going to solve. What's the problem with that? What's the problem with that process? Why should, well, Prabhupada said, he said, maybe.
It proves a failure, Maharaj, because we cannot be maun for a longer time. Only for some time we can keep maun, not for longer time.
Yeah.
And it will call for death.
Yeah, Prabhupada said, may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately, just like in Vrindavan, there was this one temple, and they had this one man, he was going to begin the Monavrat. They say he's going to do Monavrat for a year, so for 1 year, he was not going to speak. But after 1 year, he was going to speak. And what's he going to do for 1 year? He's going to use a blackboard. He's got a board and chalk, and he just writes everything he wants to say on the board. So they do like that. So although not speaking, the mind is still speaking. The mind is speaking, and the hands are speaking, there's writing, and so like that. So that's not really silence. Prabhupada said, you know what Prabhupada said the sound of silence is? He said, chanting Hare Krishna. He said, that is the sound of silence. The chanting of Hare Krishna, that is real silence. So then Prabhupada gives the example about the toads in the fields, they're croaking. And what's happening?
They are inviting death.
Yeah. Who's going to get them?
Snake.
The snakes will come, right? The snakes hear the sound, they will come and eat the frogs. They're happy. The frogs are so stupid, they're saying, here I am, come and eat me, and the snake will come. So we're the same. We're talking nonsense, and we're reducing the duration of life. As we talk, the more we talk nonsense, the more we reduce our duration of life. We say nonsense talk will breed nonsense thought. And from nonsense thought comes nonsense action. And from nonsense action, then you get old age, disease, and death. You have to take birth again in the material world. So the urge, the very first thing Rupa Goswami spoke about, Vacho Vegam, the urge to speak. We have to control the urge to speak. So Rupa Goswami says, the meaning is Krishna Kata. We have to, this is the process that we don't say simply silence, but we say speak about Krishna. Use the words to glorify Krishna. Then there's no harm. Just keep chanting Hare Krishna and sing the songs about Krishna and chant the glories of Krishna. Then there's no problem. All right, we'll go ahead. We'll come back, ask some men to read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes,
The
Prabhu.
restless,
Go ahead. Similarly, anger can be controlled.
the restlessness or fickleness of the mind, manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the
No,
lotus.
similarly, oh, right, yeah, the restless, okay, up there, right, yeah, we're doing the mind, right.
Yeah.
So we did the urge to speak, now the mind's demands. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah. The restlessness or fickleness of the mind, that is manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22.31 says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara. Yahaha Krishna Taha Nahi Mayayara Adhikara. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya is just like darkness. If the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Similarly, if Krishna is present in the mind, there is no possibility of the minds being agitated by Maya's influence. The yogic process of negating all material thoughts will not help. To try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. The vacuum will not remain. However, if one always think of Krishna and how to Krishna, one mind will naturally be controlled.
Okay.
Similarly,
so, controlling the mind. How to control the mind? Mind
thinking
is
about Krishna, always thinking about Krishna, we can control about the mind. Always.
Arjuna said it was very difficult in Bhagavad Gita, right?
Yes.
Chanchalahi mana Krishna. Arjuna said, my mind is restless. More difficult to control than the wind. Right?
Yes.
So, how to control the mind?
Abhyas and Vairagya, Maharaj.
Yeah, Krishna said, yeah, I know it's difficult, right? But by constant practice and by detachment, it's possible. So, is that also the process in Krishna consciousness?
And engage in devotional service.
Yeah, we have to be also proper engagement. So Prabhupada talks about trying to make the mind blank, to create a vacuum in the mind. He says artificial, to make the mind empty. How long can you make the mind empty for? Very soon something will come in. We can sit for 1 minute, 2 minutes, the mind blank, but something will come in the mind because that's the nature of the mind. So we have to learn how to use the mind for Krishna. We should think about how to serve Krishna and how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Maybe you have to think somebody's cooking for Krishna, So we think about what nice preparation I could cook for Krishna. Maybe you're making the flower garland for Krishna. You can think how to make a nice flower garland. Like this, we keep our mind busy in service for Krishna. So this is important. This is very good. Keep the mind. This is not material. If we're always thinking how to serve Krishna, this is spiritual. Prabhupada quotes Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna is the sun, Maya is darkness. So if we keep the mood of always serving Krishna, then we'll always be in the sun. We'll be away from the darkness. All right, go ahead. Would you like to keep reading, Prabhu?
Yeah, so, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Maharaj. Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether, but if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreant brothers Jagai and Madhai, who blasphemed and struck Nityananda Prabhu. In his Sikshashtaka, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Tirnatapi Suni Sena Tarorapi Sahishruna. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. One may then ask why the Lord exhibited his anger. The point is that one should be really ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against the offenders. Krodha or anger cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. It was in anger that Hanuman set fire to Lanka, but he is worshipping the greatest devotee of Lord Ramachandra. This means that he utilized his anger in the right way. Arjuna serves as another example. He was not willing to fight, but Krishna incited his anger, you must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. Anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of the Lord.
All right. We have to be very careful using anger in the service of the Lord. It means you have to be controller of the mind and senses. If we're not in control, then we will use the anger in the wrong way. It can become a problem. So you have to be a little careful about this. What we think we're doing in the service of Krishna, are we really doing it for Krishna, or is it just for our own ego when we become angry? So we have to be careful. All right? Now, Prabhupada talks about using anger in the service of the Lord. He said, when somebody may blaspheme the Lord or his devotees, so we could get angry at them. But if we hear, if we hear this kind of thing, it said you should cut out the tongue of the offender. But we don't want to cut out that would be a crime if you cut out somebody's tongue. What we should do, what should we do? Somebody's saying bad things about Krishna or about the devotees.
We should go away from that place for marriage.
Right, I think so. I think we're better we go away from that place. Cover our ears and go away. We don't want to hear these kind of words. Very offensive. Unless we have control, unless we're really in a superior position that we can really give instruction to the people who are being offensive, then better just to go away. Be careful about trying to use anger in the service of Krishna. Because we know in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said 3 gates to hell, right? What are the 3 gates to hell?
Anger, lust,
Anger, greed.
Greed, right.
greed.
Right. Greed. So we have to be careful. And also earlier in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Krishna had described how we fall down. Dhyayato vishayam pumsam sangas teshu pajayate Sangat sajayate kama, kama krodo vijayate, right? Do you know the meaning?
By contemplating on sense
Yes.
objects, desire arrays, and then because of desire, when desire is not fulfilled, then krodha, anger will come.
Yes, right.
When anger comes, your intelligence, you'll get
Right.
bewildered, and the intelligence
So
is
we
lost.
have to be very
Yeah.
careful not to let that happen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So Prabhupada gives examples of people who used anger.
Hanuman putting fire on the Lanka, Ravana's
Right.
Lanka. And one more, Nityananda Prabhu on Jagai and Madai.
Nityananda didn't get angry.
Oh, sorry. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually got angry.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry, right?
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to kill them, right? He was calling
Yes,
for his
ma'am.
Sudarshan Chakra. But Lord, what did Lord Nityananda say?
To leave
Why?
them. He actually, because he's very merciful.
Yes. Lord Nityananda, what did Lord Nityananda say? He said, in this age, we have to be merciful, right? Why?
Don't know much.
Because there's so many demons. You can't kill them all. You can't just go around killing all the demons wholesale, right?
Yeah. Yes,
So we have
Maharaj.
to be merciful in this age. We have to make the demons devotees.
Haribol.
So and you know, we have to be very careful about trying to use anger in the service of Krishna. Be careful. You know, remember you get angry with your children or something like that. Be careful. Not good. We don't allow it. You have to control the anger. If the children upset you, take your japa beads and go out and go for a walk. Don't get angry. Don't show your anger. You have to show control and talk to them and appeal to them that this behavior is not proper. You have to stop this. It will be much more effective. So we have to show the example. So using anger, be careful. It's a very delicate thing to use anger in the service of Krishna. Okay, we'll go ahead. Next one, the topic is the tongue, urge of the tongue. Again, not speaking, but other things.
As for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to the choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasada. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasada. That is a way to control the urge of the tongue. One should take prasada at scheduled times and should not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasada, the urges of the belly and tongue can be controlled.
Oh, okay. So some practical instructions given here. Don't eat in the restaurants or sweetmeat shops. Right? What does that mean? Maybe that means we go.
Equally, self prasadam and or self-cooked food after offering Krishna, we do.
according to Krishna. Best thing is you make your own sweets. Buy sweet in the sweetmeat shop. You don't know who's cooked it. You don't know what dirty fellow cooked it. You don't know what standard of hygiene they have. Anyway, you have to be careful. Eating in restaurants, may look very nice. You don't know in the kitchen what goes on, what they're using, how they're cooking. They may say, oh, vegetarian, oh yeah, no problem. We can give you vegetarian. They cook it in the same pot. They cook meat. Or they cooked it with the onions or something. So, best thing is you eat at home. You go out to the restaurants and sweetmeat shops. It's not very good, very risky. Just like nowadays, this COVID, people are more careful about going out. So that disease is always there. So devotees, we don't like to eat in these places. I heard from Prabhupada, I remember Prabhupada telling us in Mayapur, devotees had all come from the West, and Prabhupada said, he saw them all there and he said, please, you're all devotees, do not eat in the restaurants. I remember Prabhupada telling us, he didn't like it. So there's control of the tongue. Prasadam, it should be offered to Krishna. So Prabhupada said, this is the control of the tongue. You take prasadam. What about in the airplane? Do you take the food in the airplane?
Only fruits.
You should be careful. Prabhupada said, when we would go door to door to meet people, he said, don't take any cut fruit. He said it should be uncut. They give you fruit, it should be uncut. Why? Because if it's cut, you don't know what they've cut it with. They use the same knife, they cut the meat. Should be careful. You take cut fruit, even if you take fruits, you can take some uncut fruit, but don't just take things which people have all been cutting and handling. Not recommended. These are some instructions from Prabhupada, what he wanted. Okay, we'll go ahead in a similar manner.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
In a similar manner, the urges of the genitals, the sex impulse, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child. Otherwise, they should not be used. The Krishna consciousness movement encourages marriage not for the satisfaction of the genitals, but for the begetting of Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are a little grown up, they are sent to our Gurukul school, where they are trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotees. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offspring is allowed to utilize his genitals. Hare Krishna.
All right. So, in some parts of the world, they have restrictions about how many children you can have. But in Krishna consciousness, we don't have any restrictions. We don't mind if you have many children. We just want that they will all be devotees. That's all. Bring them up to be nice devotees. So that's the real purpose of having children. That mother and father should think that this child who is going to take our birth, this child, that this will be their last birth in the world, and they'll go back to Godhead after this life. So mother and father should think like that, that we want a very nice pure soul to come in the womb, and this child will not have to take birth again. This will be their last birth. Let
Yes.
them go back to Godhead. So mother and father should think like that. So marriage is good. We encourage people get married, and we encourage people have children. But we want quality children, good children. And to get good children, you have to conceive the children according to religious principles. And then you attract a good soul. So you do the samskar, do Garbhadan samskar, and chant Hare Krishna nicely, and then you will attract a nice pure soul who will be a good devotee. All right.
Yes, Maharaj.
Prabhupada had 5 children. Prabhupada had been married in his family life. He had 5 children. And he tried his best to bring them up to be devotees. Now, of course, it's ultimately up to the children. They may become devotees, they may not. We know Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think he had 11 children. And he raised all of them to be devotees. Okay, go ahead.
When one is fully practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master.
Go ahead.
In his Anuvriti explanation of Upadeshamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura writes that our material identification creates 3 kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim of these 3 types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So we all get trouble with the material energy. How to overcome the material energy? We have to do this tapasya. We have to practice this austerity, controlling these urges, speaking. How to speak, how to control the urge to speak. What are you going to do, Mataji, to control your urge to speak? How can you control it?
Maharaj, by only speaking about the Lord, His form, His qualities, and His pastimes, we can control our speak and not just doing some mundane speak, like chatting something wrong, only about Krishna.
No, you should only speak what is necessary.
Yes, Maharaj.
Right?
Yeah.
You should only speak what is absolutely necessary. That's the problem. That we often speak so many. What happens? We start to speak about people. We speak about other people. And then we commit offenses.
Right.
Start criticizing them. So this is very dangerous. So have to be very careful to control the urge to speak. And so we try to speak only what is necessary. Otherwise, of course, we speak about Krishna, right?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj.
And what about the demands of the belly? How much are you going to eat?
As much as required, Maharaj. Only Krishna Prasad.
Yeah, what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to take water before the meal, right?
Yes, yes, Maharaj.
How much food? Are you supposed to just put food in the belly, or are we allowed? No, we have to put also liquid in the belly. You should drink water like a half an hour before the meal. You should take some water so that you will not eat so much.
Okay.
Because after the meal, you don't want to take water because that would put out the fire of digestion.
Okay.
But you take the water before the meal. There should be 1/3 food, 1/3 liquid, 1/3 air.
Oh.
You don't just fill the belly, right? Keep some room for the air, and then the food can digest better.
Maharaj, it is also said that you should eat food not stomach full, but your stomach should be little half empty also. Is it right?
Well, not half empty, but I had like 1/3 food, 1/3 liquid, and 1/3 air.
Okay.
Something like that. You have to have some solid food, and you have also liquid, and then you have some air.
Okay, Maharaj.
That's and the best time to eat is in the middle of the day. You try to eat less at night.
Yeah.
Eat a good meal in the morning and
Yeah.
eat a full meal at lunchtime and eat less at night.
Okay.
Because at night there's no digestion there.
Right, Maharaj.
And when if you eat things at night, then you won't have a good sleep. You won't be able to sleep properly.
Right.
So it's also very good for health. Now, Prabhupada told us no grains after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Means no rice, no chapatis after 4 o'clock.
Yeah, Maharaj.
That means if you're going to eat at night, you take something light only.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay, where are we? When we refer to the earth, who's going to read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Anand Pranam.
Haribol Prabhu.
When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of impersonal Mayavadi philosophers, or of persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karma kanda, or of the materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5 to 10 to 11. Nayad vachas chitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragnita karchit tad tadvayasam tirtam vasit manasa nayatra hamsa nirmanti ushikshaya. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows, since all the perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode. They do not derive any pleasure there. Continue, Prabhuji. Maharaj, continue.
Yeah, go ahead. Just that next sloka.
Tadvak vishargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati slokam abadvate api namanya anantasya yasho nikantiyat vanti gayanti grananti sadhava. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of description of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, and pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about the revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. The conclusion is that only when we talk about the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk, we should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness. As for the agitations of the flickering mind, they are derived into two divisions. The first is called avirodha prati, or unrestricted attachment, or the other is called virodha yukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. Adherence to this philosophy of the Mayavadis believes in fruitive results of the Karmavadis, and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called avirodha prati. Jnanis, karmis, and materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materialistic cannot fulfill their plans, and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desire produces anger. Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided
Hare
into three.
Krishna Prabhuji. I think Maharaj has left, maybe disconnected. We will wait.
Okay. Should we wait, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
I think we have to wait, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
His Grace Balram Kinkar Das Prabhuji can call Maharaj.
Sure, Prabhu. 1 second. Hare Krishna.